Hi, I'm Patrick Macedo, 38 years old, married to my wonderful wife Olivia and father of two amazing daughters that are the light of my days, every day. On July 2011, I suffered a seizure while at São Paulo's International Airport in Brazil, where I was about to take a flight to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I woke up inside an ambulance while I was being taken to a hospital nearby, where I was diagnosed with a mass in my brain. After having my spinal fluid removed and tested for bacterial infection, to test for meningitis, and tested for viral infection, to test for herpes, which both came negative, it was concluded that I had a brain tumor. I'm here to talk about my journey with brain tumor, and most importantly to explain why a tumor or cancer diagnosis is not the end, but the beginning of a whole new life. The human brain is the most incredible biological work of art and probably the least understood part of the human body. Made up by a combination of 100 billion neurons, each with a unique set of about 10,000 inputs, forming an incalculable number of neural states. The brain creates a difficult environment for any surgeon. No wonder neurosurgeon is one of the toughest disciplines in medicine. My tumor is located in a difficult axis area of the brain called insula. The insula is a primitive structure of the brain and is, in my view, poorly understood. We know that people that remove their insula due to a stroke, usually associated with cigarette smoking, have a much easier time quitting their smoking habit after surgery than smokers that had strokes in other areas of the brain. We also know that the swallowing motion we have when in danger is provoked by the insula, but no other major function is, to my knowledge, associated with the insula. There are also studies that associate the insula with gut feeling, the instinctive way of reading the situations we are in. While removing the insula may not be a big deal, getting there presents an incredible surgical challenge. Not only that, in my case the tumor was diffuse and had gone beyond the insula, touching my motor nerve beam, which if damaged could leave me paralyzed for life. Losing movement in any portion of the body is a huge deal for anybody, but I was also an active recreational athlete that ran at least 3 triathlons a year, including half Ironman distance ones. To do this, one really needs to enjoy running, swimming and biking, and losing my left side movement would make that very hard for me. But that was the least of my concerns. I'm a professional business person, so my intellectual ability took precedence over my motor skills in theory. But in practice, of course, I didn't want to lose anything. In fact, I was more afraid of the unknown. A brain surgery is not like putting a metal pin in a broken bone. It is much more complex because of how hard it is to predict with precision the potential side effects. My tumor was located on my right insula, a region below the frontal lobe and the temporal lobe. Both these lobes are part of the neurocortex, the controller of the controllers. So any damage to my neurocortex could affect the most advanced function of the brain, such as social behavior, language, and high-level consciousness. Thank you, Frank Amthor, for your Neuroscience for Dummies book. As you can imagine, my brain tumor diagnosis felt like a death sentence. Every time I looked at my daughters, I would cry. All of a sudden, the future seemed a lot shorter to me, and looking at them made me feel like watching the future slowly disappear. But luckily, this period was short. I woke up 2 weeks after being diagnosed and thank God for another day. I don't know what made me feel like I was immortal prior to my brain tumor. Once I realized that we are all going to die someday, and none of us know how, I decided to live life to the fullest and investigate how to extend my future as best as I can. While the doctor that diagnosed me was good and well educated, coincidentally with an extension at the University of Pittsburgh, where I had lived for the last 10 years, I decided to talk to other doctors to understand my options. All of them were totally forthcoming at providing referrals, and they all led me to the Brazilian neurosurgeon I picked named Guilherme Carvalhal Ribas, referred by many as the best in the country for my particular case. Choosing a doctor is extremely important. My choice was made based on Dr. Guilherme's forthcoming way of presenting all the possibilities, including the risks. In addition, I picked him because he was one of the only ones that slowed down before recommending surgery. As I read scientific papers, I realized that a less than radical resection would considerably reduce my prognostic. In fact, some papers argued going straight to chemo and radiotherapy if no more than 90% of the tumor could be removed. I chose Dr. Guilherme because he was very conservative at presenting a possibility of total resection without neural damage, and also because an American doctor based at UPMC called Arlen Mintz provided his opinion that this was one of the few cases he would not operate immediately. That after all the doctors in Brazil saying that in the US, I would not have even been able to leave the hospital after the diagnostic. After a month watching the evolution of my tumor, particularly a region that had a contrast in the MRI images, suggesting it was more aggressive, classified as a grade 3 tumor, we decided to operate. The grade 3 area increased 20% in that long month. Interestingly, the day before Dr. Guilherme and I had this conversation, I read a paper about the possibility of performing the surgery awake. By total coincidence, Dr. Guilherme, who had just returned from an international conference, recommended me to fly to France and operate with a doctor named Hugues Dufault, who had shown at the conference an impressive number of successful glioma resections. Dr. Dufault is the best doctor in the world, using a technique called neurostimulation. What this means is that I would have the surgery awaken while the doctors reach deep into the insula while giving my brain tiny electric shocks. If I responded, meaning feeling or doing something strange due to the shocks, they would make a turn and try a new route into my insula. If nothing happened, they could keep cutting until they reached the epicenter of my tumor. The goal in the process was to preserve the functional tissues in my brain, something that cannot be precisely done while I'm at sleep. There are techniques such as neuromapping that try to anticipate these issues prior to a sedated craniotomy, but in my mind, and apparently in practice, performing the surgery awake is providing the best results. On December 13, 2011, I was operated by Dr. Hugues Dufault at the University of Montpellier Hospital in France. I remember every step of the surgery for the 2 hours I was alert. The protocol was that I should lay on my left side and move my left arm non-stop, opening and closing it, while I read figures of animals and objects to a Brazilian resident that understood my Portuguese. Before the last and deepest incision, Dr. Dufault asked me to tell him if I felt anything strange, as he was getting close to my motor nerve beam. As he stimulated my brain, my left side got completely paralyzed. It was one of the strangest feelings I have ever had, trying to move my arm and leg and get nothing in response. I immediately screamed and he got it. He then wrapped up the surgery and asked if I would agree to leave behind a small piece of tumor, as he was afraid that going further would let me paralyzed. I thanked him and God for being there. That was exactly what I was anticipating, and being awake was the best thing I could have done. My gut was right, and awakened craniotomy was the best choice for me. Following my surgery, I arrived in São Paulo just in time for Christmas with my daughters, only 11 days after surgery, following a long international flight. I surprised my girls, dressed as Santa, to their demise, but my skinny body type gave me away. In any case, that was an incredible day in my life. Today I wake up knowing more than ever that every day counts. Time is God's most important gift to us, and I cherish my time with family, friends, and at work by trying to stick to things that I really enjoy doing, things that I know matter to me and the ones around me. Like a portrait at my grandmother's house used to say, "Yesterday is the past, tomorrow is the future, and today is a gift." That is why it's called the present. Cancer is a constant exercise of patience, from not knowing exactly how or when we will be cured, to what we should do with the time we have left. My answer is live like we should always live, cherishing every moment we have in life and trying to make this world a better place, distributing smiles and optimism to everyone we see. My favorite prayer to God is to ask Him to give me the strength to change the things I feel need to be changed, the patience to deal with the things that I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference between them. Being close to death made me more alive than ever. I really hope that nobody has to go through this to realize how wonderful life is and to make this world a better place. But if you face a brain tumor or any other adversity, be brave. Face your faith with your full strength and always be positive. With or without cancer, nobody knows how many more years of life one has. So make the most out of what you've got and thank God every day for each new day you get, no matter what faith you practice. What are you doing with your brain?